What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be taking some of this 52-100 and we're going to be forging out a knife. Now really I'm not too worried about the knife. What I want to do is try to get a better system in which I can forge knives out a lot easier. There's a lot of good sides to the dies I use, but there's also a lot of improvement that we can make. And that will be the bulk of this build. Nonetheless, we're still going to make a very cool knife by the end of this video.
Alright guys, so I've pretty much made this set of dies. I'm going to be putting one here, and this one is the exact same except I rounded it over. It's going to be on the top die. And this way I can kind of mimic my anvil and hammer, because there's a lot of things that I want to do that I just can't do. Obviously, if I had a power hammer, I could probably get away with it, but I would still need dies pretty similar to this, to where I can kind of control where I'm pressing to move steel around. Now with these dies, I can press and it moves forward and back. And with these dies over here, I press and I can move the steel to the side. But the issue with this is when I press, it presses the whole thing, and sometimes I just want to work on a certain area, which is what I can do with an anvil and a hammer. But obviously I'm trying to do it the most efficient way possible. So to be able to isolate the certain spot, I can put this guy like here and then press down, and it'll only work that spot and not work the rest over there, so I can isolate the steel. And hopefully I can get the results I want. It'll be similar to kind of like the Japanese power hammers, where they have a top die like this, and then they have their regular anvil on the bottom. In this case, I'm just using the other half of this guy. And hopefully with a controlled press and kind of, obviously it's going to be a learning curve, but I should be able to mimic that with the press. Obviously, it's not going to be as efficient, but hopefully in the near future I can make a small power hammer in which I can help with the actual forging. But for now I wanted to try this out, so that's why I stopped forging this guy, and we're going to be making this.
By this point, this welding cable is already making itself useful. The hold down tools work pretty well, and they're making the whole holding process a lot easier because I don't have to put all kinds of squares to try to hold it magnetically while I tack it, or try to hold it with my hand and hope it doesn't wiggle around. And that's making welding this piece up a breeze. Now, as I said already, the whole point of this is to try to mimic a hammer. And while it does a great job, there are definitely some things that I can improve on it. For example, it does isolate very well, which is something my other dies don't tend to do, depending on what action I want for them. This one takes smaller bites and kind of isolates the areas a little bit more. But I think I need to round over the top die a little bit more. That way I have more movement. I felt like the steel wasn't moving quite as much as I wanted to move it. And I think we're going to make a bigger square for it to move around versus right now where it's on that small cylinder that is the same size. I think I'm going to end up removing that and making a bigger block. That way we can isolate the material even better, and I don't have the close edge that the other one has. It's not right there, right next to where I'm pressing, so it isolates the material and moves it just a little bit better. And I could even take that other one and make that one even more rounder. Take that bottom one and make it even more rounder and have a flat one like the top one is right now, and a rounder one for the bottom one. That way I can have like a planishing side and more of an aggressive moving material side. I don't know if that makes sense, but just a thought that came to my head. Overall, it did make forging this knife a lot easier. Really, where I have the most issues is trying to draw out the heel. Of course, I can use a cross peen hammer to get the same effect, but If I'm doing a whole bunch of knives, more of a production style forging, I think it would be a lot less strainful on my body if I can have a machine do it versus doing it by hand, which I know is a big no-no for a lot of armchair, warriors on the internet that don't forge, but you gotta learn to take care of your body the best way possible. What good is enjoying forging if you throw out your shoulder? For this knife, I wanted a pretty simple design. It's a nice little utility knife, very useful, and it has a very short grip because you pretty much want to control the knife as best you can. So I made sure that it's comfortable in the hand, but you can also grip it really nice and tight. And honestly, I kind of want to keep it because the end result is actually very nice. I have another utility knife that I use in my kitchen that's probably like around 3 inches on the blade, maybe 4 on a good day when it's not too cold outside. And it is one of my favorite knives because you can just do so much with it versus a larger knife that sometimes, because of the size, it really has dedicated jobs. I know there's people that have better, cooking skills or knife skills that can use an 8-inch knife for everything, but I don't know, I feel more comfortable with a smaller knife, especially for certain specific tasks like peeling apples or doing small things like that. And it's been a while since I've done a full tang knife. I used to do them all the time, and now I feel weird whenever I do them since the process is so different from a hidden tang knife. And I've been doing nothing but hidden tangs for the past who knows how many knives. Probably close to probably 6-7 months. I rarely do full tang knives nowadays.
Alright guys, so the knife's out of the temper. It's looking very good. Only thing is we got some pretty nasty warping. So we're going to go ahead and straighten that out with our carbide peen and we should be good to go. So we can do our final grind. Overall, I'm very happy with the way it's turning out. I love the shape. The handle, it's going to be a nice little utility knife.
The grind on this guy was pretty easy, but it did come out pretty warped from the quench. I'm not sure why that was. Well, it's probably because it's pretty thin knife. So the thinner the knife is, the more likely it is to warp. I tried to clamp it in between 2 aluminum pieces, but I think I took too long to do it. Next time I do one of these smaller guys, I think I'm gonna end up doing trying to straighten it out if it warps by hand versus just clamping it down and letting it cool down completely. For this little guy, I'm going to be using a piece of stabilized canary wood. It's a very oily wood. Doesn't really need to be stabilized, but I had it sent to stabilize anyways. And it's a very beautiful wood. It has a lot of orange and yellows and reds in it. And it's one of my favorite woods to use along with Paduke. I really love Paduke. It has that bright red color to it. And they're very good woods for kitchen usage. They handle water very, very well. Unfortunately, I did not have a book match pair, but it still looks pretty good on both sides once the product is finished. I get a lot of comments on my fingers being too close to the blade. And believe me when I say I'm being very careful. The last thing I want to do is chop a finger off. The video is sped up to about 3 or 4 times regular speed, so it does look like I'm cutting it pretty quick. Nonetheless, it's a lot slower than it seems, and due to the angle of the camera, it looks like my finger is closer than it is. Still pretty close, but I'm doing it slow and I'm being very, very careful. And now we move to the glue up. Normally on a Damascus knife, I like to do a black liner in between. That way I can etch the full knife and have the etch go all the way around. Not really a fan of having a sanded handle or spine on the knife. But since this isn't going to be etched, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to skip out on the liner and just go with the black pins and the canary wood. Regardless, black pins go pretty well with any wood I use. I really like the look of it. I know a lot of people prefer steel or brass, but I really love the look of the black G10 pins. Here the wood starts peeling a little bit on the ends, but I end up grinding all that out anyway, so I just kind of went with it. Also, I'm using 5-minute epoxy, so I am being as fast as possible. Last thing I want to do is have this guy dry up on me, and then it's a pain to clean up the edges closer to the knife. I forgot what it's called, where it transitions from the wood to the knife. The grind on this guy was pretty simple. All I did was give it a nice aggressive taper, and then I rounded off all the edges, giving it a nice comfortable feel in the hand. One thing I really like about this wood is that it's very pretty. One thing I don't like about it is that this thing stains everything that's orange red color, and it really makes a mess in the shop. Nonetheless, I'm very happy with the way it looks, so I can just clean up the mess and it's no biggie. I'll take grinding this over grinding some synthetic material all day. And we do our maker's mark. This laser has been very useful. I only use it for this, which is kind of sad because it's such a nice, expensive laser. Nonetheless, I kind of only need it for marking certain things like the wax cans that I send with the knives that I sell and for marking my knives. But overall, this knife was great. It ended up being extremely sharp. It's extremely thin, has some good flexibility to it. And overall, I'm very happy with the way it looks and the way it performs. I kind of want to keep it for myself, to be honest. But unfortunately, I have to sell it. As well as I have some very cool cutting boards online on the website. So be sure to go check out those cutting boards and go check out this knife. They're going to be available on the website the moment this video comes out. And I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.